Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Betty. Good morning, Johnsons. Good morning, Noel. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, John. All right. So, is the audio all right? The audio is good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, then let's start with our chanting. We shall chant together. Call and response. Om Sahana Vavatu. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahano Bhunaktu. Sahano Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvi Navadhitam Astu. Tejasvi Navadhitam Astu. Ma Vidvishavahai. Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shantihi. 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 Om Shantihi. 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 Om. May the Supreme Spirit protect us. May the Supreme Spirit nourish us. May we work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and fruitful. May love and harmony dwell amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shantihi. 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 Om Shantihi. 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 Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. So good morning to all of you. Here we are. Today is the last topic of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, quite an important topic in the chapter of Yoga of Meditation, Dhyana Yoga. So last time we saw that Arjuna had a doubt, a question, how to quieten this restless mind. And Sri Krishna told there are two ways. One is practice, repeated practice. And secondly, detachment, some amount of detachment, especially at the time of meditation. These two are the keys to quieten the restless mind. Now Arjuna comes up with another doubt, another question. And this question is, Arjuna thinks that what if I don't reach the goal of yoga as promised by Sri Krishna, that this path of meditation will lead to fulfillment, to the understanding, awareness that we are fulfilled, and the joy, that peace that will come from that. And ultimately that will lead us to the awareness of oneness with the entire existence. Now Arjuna is a bit afraid. What if I don't reach the goal? In fact, this is a question not of Arjuna, a question of many of us. What if we don't reach the goal of the spiritual path that we are all following? So Arjuna's main doubt is whether what I have done in this life, whatever I have done, whatever spiritual assets that I have built, will they all be lost? Or what will happen to them if I don't reach? And suppose I take another birth, another incarnation, what will happen? Should I have to start from the scratch? Or all these things will be brought forward? Someone told, in fact, Arjuna wanted to know whether he has to start from the first chapter again, or he can start from the next chapter, second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, whether he has to go all over from the beginning, or in the next life, he can start from the seventh chapter. So this is Arjuna's doubt. Arjuna asks this question that Ayotihi Sadhya Upeta Yogat Chalita Manasaha Aprapyo Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gachati. So he introduces a term here, Yoga Chalita Manasaha, which is also known by the term Yoga Bhrashta, that is, someone who could not reach the goal of yoga, the ultimate goal of yoga. One who could not reach, such a person technically is called Yoga Bhrashta. That is, they took up the journey with all sincerity, put enough of effort, but could not reach the goal. Thing is, they attempted, but they failed to reach the goal. Now, the question of failure comes only for those who attempted. Those who did not attempt at all, for them, this question of failure does not come. And also, those who have reached the goal, the illumined ones, the Jivan Muktas, for them also, the failure does not apply to, because they succeeded. But someone who attempted, and he says, Shraddha Upeta, means it was not half-heartedly. They tried with all sincerity, with all faith, but they failed. Why? He says, Ayatihi, that is, the effort was not sufficient enough. The effort was not sufficient enough. Why the effort was not sufficient enough? There could be many obstructions, obstacles. One could be one's own limitations. We know that we want to do a lot. We want to do many things in our life. Even in our spiritual pursuits, we set many goals, but we see that we always have some limitations. So that is one limitation from our own limitations created by our own body and mind. Sometimes the body may not give us the support, especially if we are seriously ill. At that time, serious spiritual practices become a bit difficult. Such could be one obstacle. Then another obstacle could be unfavorable situations or environment which are not conducive enough. So for this, although they tried, the effort was not sufficient. Yoga samsiddhim apyapya. They could not succeed in yoga. That is, they could not reach the highest goal of yoga, which we know as Sarva Atma Bhava. The awareness of being one with the entire existence, seeing God everywhere, not only with Him, but without, everywhere seeing God. That is the goal of yoga. But they could not reach that goal. So, what happens to such a person? This is question of Arjuna. And sometimes we also ask this question, seeing, the superhuman efforts that other spiritual aspirants, the illumined people, when we read their life, we see how much effort they put. And we find probably we won't be able to do that much. What will happen to us? Probably this promise is only reserved for a few people like Ramana Maharshi, Acharya Shankara, or Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sarda Devi, or people like that. Probably we won't reach there. So what will happen to us? This is Arjuna's doubt. He elaborates his doubt in the next verse, which is very important. Kachit no ubhaya vibhrashta Chinnabhram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimuro brahmana pati. Apratishto means they could not get themselves established. Established where? Brahmana patihi. In the realization of Brahman. They could not realize Brahman within, without, everywhere, which we saw is the highest goal of yoga. So, in that case, is such a person is ubhaya vibhrashta? Is such a person lost from both the goals? That is, it is understood that one who has given time for spiritual practices, time and energy, quality time, they have managed that amount time of energy from their materialistic pursuit, because time and energy are constant. We have only 24 hours in a day. So if someone has dedicated some time daily in their spiritual practices, that implies that that amount of time they have managed from their materialistic pursuit. So if they would have given that amount time and energy and effort in their materialistic pursuit, probably they would have achieved much more materialistic success. But here, what is happening, they have put effort, energy, time in their spiritual pursuit in yoga, but could not succeed in yoga as such, could not reach the highest goal. So are they lost in both counts? Did they lose materialistically as well as spiritually? So this is the question. Ubhaya vibhrashta. Are they lost from both their goals? Have they missed both the world of materialism and world of spirituality? And Arjuna gives an analogy. Analogy is like Chinna abhram iva nashyati. Abhram means cloud. Chinna abhram means we see, large clouds, big clouds, and from them, once in a while, we see a small portion of that gets isolated from the bigger chunk of the cloud. And when such a small portion gets isolated from the big mass of cloud, what happens? Very soon, owing to wind and other factors, such a small cloud gets dispersed, disappear altogether, gets dissipated. So that is Arjuna is asking, whether such a person gets totally lost if they have missed both the goals. Will that person perish like an isolated cloud? This is Arjuna's doubt. And yesterday I was thinking about, this analogy or metaphor of the cloud and isolated cloud. Then I was thinking that there is another dimension to the analogy. That is, we may think of, the big chunk of cloud as a spiritual community. And if we get isolated from a community, spiritual community, from a sangha, as we say, a sangha, a sense of belonging to a spiritual community, it is very easy to get, distracted, to get isolated, and to be lost. It could happen. It could happen. That is why, in our order, within our order, there is a saying that there is a great power in Sangha Shakti, this is called, means power of being together, which one cannot have when they are alone, isolated. So this whole community, whole Sangha is much more than the summation of the individuals. When we are together, there is another energy coming into play that is called Sangha Shakti. That's why we have seen, unfortunately, some people get lost, get, isolated, or breaks up from a Sangha. And very often they get really lost because the Sangha, the community, reminds us, support us, each other about, and reminds us about our spiritual goal and help us in the spiritual pursuit. So that is also a good way of thinking about the cloud and an isolated cloud. So that is Arjuna's doubt, whether such a person gets, when such a person perish like an isolated cloud. And he says, Etan me samsayam Krishna chettum arhasi asheshataha tat annaha samsayasya asso chetva nahi upapadyate. So this doubt of mine, Sri Krishna, you have to resolve. It's kind of threat. You have to resolve, otherwise no more Gita. Gita ends here. If you don't resolve means this doubt. And apart from, I don't see anybody else who can really resolve this doubt. What is the doubt? Doubt is what happens to a yogi if they cannot reach the highest goal promised by yoga. This is my doubt. So you have to resolve it. And other than you, nobody can really resolve it for me. Why? Because Sri Krishna, here we have to remember, is a divine incarnation. They only can see what lies ahead, what happens in the future. what is in store. That is why a nice definition of Bhagavan, divine incarnation, is given in Vishnu Purana. Utpattim cha vinasham cha bhutanam agatim gatim vetti viddam cha aviddam cha savachyo Bhagavan iti. They are called divine incarnate, who knows what they know. Utpattim cha vinasham cha, about creation, about dissolution. Then bhutanam agatim gatim, the trajectory of individual beings, what is going to happen in for each individual being, their future, their past, all they know. That is why they are called Bhagavan. We see that, uh, people like Sri Ramakrishna, they could see, they could tell the past and future of the spiritual aspirants. That is the power. They have it. They had it in full, but with spiritual practices, with evolved souls, really can see the future of a person, of a spiritual aspirant. I just finished reading a book called Being Ramdas, Ramdas, who was popular in America. So it's a big volume. It is his autobiography, and there he says that how his guru, Nim Karoli Baba, could correctly foresaw Ramdas' future. Okay, so this is not something unusual. This is not a miracle that this comes. It's a siddhi. It's a power that comes with spiritual practices. And there are people who really can see our future. So that is why Arjuna is asking Sri Krishna, you have to tell me, resolve this doubt, what happens to a yogi who has failed. So these are the doubts of Arjuna. Then Sri Krishna answers. Sri Krishna says, Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. It's a great assurance Sri Krishna gives. And this is so positive statement. First is assurance. Arjuna, don't worry. And he uses a beautiful term, kalyana krit. So kalyana means mangal, good, auspicious. Krit, one who has done. Who does good, who serves other, who has done spiritual practices, such a person is called kalyana krit. Means this is difficult to really translate into English, but this word has got tremendous connotation. That whosoever does good in any sense, such a person does not perish, because such a person is engaged in dharma. Dharma means good. And it says dharma saves the person who performs dharma. So this is the eternal law. This is the universal law. One who does good, they really never gets lost. Kalyanokrit, who has done good deeds, who has done spiritual practices, who has built up spiritual samskaras, spiritual impressions in their mind, they have no fear. Such an assurance from Bhagavan. And where neither in this life nor hereafter. They don't have to worry in this life and even in next life, in future life. Why he says so? The thing is here this, that spiritual practices creates two types of results. primary result and secondary results. The primary result is, of course, reaching the goal, moksha. That is the primary result and primary goal of yoga, which we said, realizing our true nature, our higher nature, seeing God everywhere, seeing God face to face. When God becomes reality for us, that is the goal of spiritual practices. That is the primary goal and that is the primary result. But there is secondary result too, and which are the byproducts. What is the byproduct? That by the spiritual practices, we are creating spiritual samskaras, and we are also creating merits, good things, which is called merit. And Vedanta believes that this merit never gets lost. Whatever good we are doing, they are being stored. They are called adrishta because they cannot be seen, and they will bear fruit. So Arjuna wants to ask, what happens to such person who don't get the primary result? And see, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna is saying, don't worry. Even if they don't get the primary result, what happens to them? Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashwati samaha shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrashto vijayate. The person will be born in a suitable environment to continue their unfinished task. The unfinished task is their spiritual pursuit. Because this is the beauty of Vedanta. In Vedanta, the time and scale, the dimensions are immense. Vedanta thinks about time and space in an immense dimension. So according to Vedanta, this one life is not all that is there. It is a part only of a larger panoramic picture. Your everything is not over with just one life. One life, your death is not full stop of your journey. It is just a comma or a semicolon. It is like a pilgrimage. When you take a long, a pilgrimage which spans for days together, that happens in India, of course, and also in Arab countries where they take up their pilgrimage by foot, walking. So they walk throughout the day, and in night they rest somewhere. And in the morning again they wake up and then again continue the journey. So according to Vedanta, our life is also like that. We are just pilgrims, and death means just a sleep. We shall sleep for a while, then wake up and take up the journey again. According to Vedanta, human beings have two bodies. Of course, three bodies, but the third body we are not considering here, which is very subtle. But one is Thula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and third one is Karana Sharira, the causal body. So Vedanta says this gross body is only the outer garment. And it dies, it may die, but whatever we have done, the impressions we have created, they remain all stored in our Sukshma Sharira, our subtle body, which is our mind, our intellect, our ego, everything. They remain stored there, although we cannot see them. And this subtle body, after the death of the body, remain for a while in a place of, they call it soul land. And Sri Krishna here says, Papya Punya Kritam Lokan. For a while, they live in the world of meritorious deeds. They enjoy of their fruit of their meritorious deeds, but then they again incarnate with all the impressions that they had created. And this next incarnation will be in accordance with their past impressions, so that they can start from where they had left. They say that it is like a snake, living out its outer shell periodically. So this death is for a soul is just giving up their outer shell. And then one may ask, is there any verification of this Vedantic claim? No, there is no physical verification. One reason why we don't remember our past incarnations or past memories is what Vedanta says. At the time of birth, there's a veil of unknowing covers this subtle body. So we no longer remember our previous incarnations. But there are two aspects to that. One is probably it is good that we don't remember all those things. Just imagine what tremendous amount of data or information that would have been to carry all the time, a baggage, emotional baggage of all the previous births. But also we have seen that people, those can be retrieved. Many people can retrieve their future, their previous memories. And yoga in Patanjali says about, with practice of, non-acceptance of things, then one can really, the memories of past births come back. Aparigraham patisthayam purva, something like that, means remembrance of the past deeds happens. Then another thing is that not having the memory of something does not mean that that did not happen. Many things we forget, but that does not mean it did not happen. Then another thing Vedanta speaks about is that from why we see that in a same environment and sharing the same genetic material, why people have different tendencies. In the same environment, two children are growing up, but still we see one has got some kind of tendencies and another has got some other kind of tendencies, sometimes which cannot be explained at all. Vedanta says it is because you have to go back and see where they had left in their previous incarnation. We see that tendency from birth. So according to Vedanta, this spiritual quest, spiritual journey is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you will continue it where you had left. And after you have exhausted your meritorious deeds, you have lived for a while in the soul land, what will happen? Sri Krishna gives two possibilities. One is Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Vrashto Vijayate. Such a yogi who could not succeed in their spiritual pursuit, they incarnate in a Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe, a prosperous and pure family. Not only prosperous, is a there is a culture, religious culture in that family. So it is a conducive environment for that yogi then for their spiritual sadhana. So by this, Sri Krishna says that no, such a yogi does not have to start from chapter 1 all over again. They can start from chapter 7. And he gives a second alternative. The alternative is this: Athoba yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadvi dulbhataram loke janma yat idrisham. The second possibility is such yogis incarnate, take birth in the family of the Gyanis, family of the yogis, yogis who are engaged in the path of yoga. But he says this is such a birth, such a family is rare. Why? Because for obvious reason, in the next chapter itself, Sri Krishna would say that in thousands of people, one perchance inquire about God, inquire about God, and much less are so who succeed in their quest. So such a family is rare. Now the question may arise, okay, I will get a birth in a conducive environment, either in a prosperous and religious family or in a family of yogis. But should I have to start from scratch, or my spiritual assets will be brought forward? Sri Krishna says, yes, they will be brought forward. Such a person will be born as spiritually evolved person. In fact, they will be called spiritual prodigy. You know, we see some children from their very young age shows great, spiritual qualities. We cannot explain, even that person cannot explain why they have such a inclination for such spiritual things, spiritual matters. We see in the life of great people from their childhood they were attracted in spiritual matters. We see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Sarada Devi, Swami Vivekananda. When others are playing, they are also playing, but they are play games involved. For example, Swami Vivekananda from his childhood as a kid, his favorite game was to meditate. Meditation with his friends. Let us meditate. That was his play. Was his game. So we see that the spiritual prodigies, in fact, not only spiritual prodigies in any other field. This is the reason that they are all their past deeds, what they could not complete. All those things are brought forward in this life. So they have inclination for spiritual practices, in spirituality. And Sri Krishna says, Tatra, in that family, in the new birth, tat tam buddhi samyogam lavate. That is, gets associated with the spiritual maturity, which they earned in their previous incarnation. And they will manifest, all the spiritual qualities will manifest from an early age. And not only that, bhuyoho tato yatate, then they strive further. This favorable birth, favorable circumstances, they cannot take for granted. There also, they have to exert, they have to do their effort. But they have the advantage. The advantage is that they already have spiritual assets. So where others have to try a lot, they would probably have to do a little bit, only little bit of effort, and they will reach the goal. It is just like they are swimming along the current, So even if they try a little bit, they have fast spiritual progresses. And what they strive for? Samsiddho, for perfection. They strive for perfection or goal which they could not get in past birth. And Sri Krishna says that Prayatnat yatomanastu yogi samsiddha kilmishaha aneka janma samsiddhis tato yati paramgati. So suppose in even the next incarnation they could not reach the goal. So Sri Krishna says it is they build their spiritual awareness bit by bit. They are gaining their or building up their spiritual assets bit by bit. If not in the next birth, then in some future birth, when they will be freed from all the limitations and they will reach the goal. So the summary of all those things is there is a great assurance from Sri Krishna that even a yogi who was sincere enough, had faith, Shraddha, and put effort too, but could not reach the highest goal in this life, such a person does not have to worry, because either way they will be benefited. One is the merits that they will be gaining that will bear fruit. And secondly, whatever they are creating, whatever they are, what is the term when we put money in the, okay, let us say investment. Whatever they are investing, saving, whatever they are saving, all of them will be brought forward and they can start from there. So it's a great assurance for all of us that nothing, no amount of spiritual practice, no amount of good samskara, good deeds get lost. Kallana krit. So, but at the same time, that should not make us lenient in our spiritual practices. Some people take it, in the sense, well, since I will anyway, anyhow, reach the goal sometime or other, what is the need for so much of effort or practice? So Sri Ramakrishna said that, well, if you set out with your boat and you are at the mercy of the current of the river, when you will reach your destination, you will reach surely. The current of the river will take you there. But is it not better to unfurl your sail and exert some of your effort so that you can reach the destination in this very life? So this is something very important, that at the one hand, we should be assured that nothing is lost, and it's a quest, it's a journey we don't have to rush through. But at the same time, we should not be lenient also, should not be lax in our practices. It is good to float, but it is better to try to reach the destination with the sail. So one may now ask, what if I don't believe in incarnations? What if I believe this life is the only life? What if I believe that death is really full stop for the soul? What about me then? What promise yoga gives me if I don't succeed in reaching the goal of yoga? So one thing is sure, that is, whether we reach the highest goal or not, we cannot deny the benefits of yoga that we see. I have seen, and you can also testify. You can also, you have also seen that people who have practiced yoga, that is, those who have had done spiritual practices consistently over many years, they exhibit a few characteristics which their counterparts miss. One is, this is my own observation, one is they have a greater sense of peace, inner peace in their mind. And this peace comes from their ability to letting go of the non-essentials. With spiritual practices, they grow a subtle intelligence, which is not, I would not say that is smartness in the, as we understand, I would say it is spiritual smartness. They develop a spiritual smartness in understanding what is really important in life, what is essential and what is non-essential. And it becomes easier for them to let go of the non-essential things. Secondly, one is peace. They really gain peace. Secondly, they have a mature way of looking, a mature outlook of looking at life. They can see the life from a much larger perspective. That is a very mature way of looking at things that can be seen in people who have practiced spirituality consistently over many years. Then another thing I would say, this is subtle, but I have seen this. These people, spiritual people, have a kind of alertness. This alertness, speaks through their eyes. They are not dull. They are not dull people. They have a kind of alertness. Okay. I would say a kind of mindfulness about what they are talking about, what they are saying, what they are seeing. A kind of mindfulness or alertness grows in them. And most importantly, all these qualities that a yogi in the sense of a spiritual practitioner develops are imperceptible to the yogi because they grow slowly over the period of time. They really don't understand that they have grown so much over the time. Even if they have failed in reaching the highest goal of yoga, but these qualities, peace, a mature outlook on life, a spiritual smartness, alertness, these things, they have grown. They have grown with these things within themselves almost imperceptibly. That is why, there is a story that one a very senior monk approached Swami Shivanandaji, who was our second president, and said, Swami, I have here for so many years and dedicated so much my whole life, but it appears I have not achieved anything in my life. I could not reach the spiritual goal. What is the value of all those things? Then Swami Shivananda said, okay, fine, very good. So leave everything, go out and lead a materialistic life as others are doing, totally engrossed in materialism. Since nothing has happened to you, so leave everything and leave the other possible life. Then the Swami said, How can I do that at all? I cannot think of that life. So Swami Shivananda says, there you go. There you go. This only proves that you have improved and you have an yearning to reach the highest goal. But since these qualities have developed in you bit by bit over the years, you have failed to notice them. So that is what those who don't believe in incarnation, they should learn from this, get assurance from this, that yoga here, of course, in the 6th chapter, the way Sri Krishna spoke of yoga does not mean meditation only, but spirituality on the whole. And finally, I would say, those who believe that death is really the full stop of this life, these practices, spiritual practices, prepare them how to take that great exit. Great exit. So that what we see in people who are engaged in spiritual life, that even their great exit, their death is graceful. Gracefully they can exit from this life because they know that there is nothing to repent, nothing to be depressed about. We did our spiritual practices and it is just, even if we don't believe in future birth, but we believe that so much we have gained in this life as spiritual practitioner. So even the exit is very graceful. So this was Arjuna's doubt. What happens to a yogi who cannot reach the goal? And great assurance from Sri Krishna that no matter what, spiritual practices don't go in vain. A spiritual person does not perish. Their spiritual assets are brought forward. Even in this very life, those spiritual assets bring about result imperceptibly, which we don't understand, but they have their unmistakable effects on our life. So it's a great assurance for all of us, great, I would say, a positive something, a gives us a boost for spiritual practices. So with this, we end 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita has got 18 chapters, so we have finished 1/3 of Bhagavad Gita. Madhusudan Saraswati, in his introduction to Bhagavad Gita, says that these 18 chapters, each 6 chapters represent one word of the great Vedic dictum, Tat Tamasi, you are that, you are that. So first 6 chapters were you, about you, Arjuna, what your true nature. Next 6 chapters will be about God, who is God. A very comprehensive idea of who is this divine being. Next six chapters till 12, it is all about Tvam. No, sorry, all about Tat, that means God. And last 6 chapters is Asi. Last 6 chapters is reconciliation, or showing Arjuna how you are that. That is how you can become God, or you already are God. These are the subject matter of last 6 chapters. So with this, from next time we shall enter into knowing who God is. Okay. So, okay, now we shall chant the closing chant, and then I can take a few questions, or you are welcome to let me know your comments. I already have got a few questions. Okay, let's chant first. Join me in chanting. Om Madhubata Ritayate. Om Madhubata Ritayate. Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha. Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha. Madhvirna Shantoshadhihi. Madhvirna Shantoshadhihi. Madhunaktam Utoshasi. Madhunaktam Utoshasi. Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha. Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha. Madhuman Madhudvau Astuna Pita. Madhudvau Astuna Pita. Madhumano Vanaspati. Madhumano Vanaspati. Madhumagam Astu Suryaha. Madhumagam Astu Suryaha. Madhirgabo Bhavantu Naha. Madhirgabo Bhavantu Naha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sweet blow the winds, and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessing. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Next week, Swami Prapananda would speak on wisdom of a yogi, or probably wisdom of a mystic. I forgot the title. You may please look up on our website.